Hello and welcome to smartmoney.com Financial Models. This is the full upgrade to the gym slash fitness center 10-year financial model. We've added full financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, monthly and annual, all integrated. Also updated the revenue, very cool updates to the revenue. I'll get to that as soon as I'm going to go through each tab. Also added a cap table and just improved the overall layout, global assumptions, just better entirely formatted model. So let's just start with the global control tab. So this is where you're going to define all. Oh, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. Um, anyway, global control. This is where you define, the company name, your launch year, and the end month or exit month of the template. And again, you can just choose any month. It could be a 5-year, a 10-year, up to 10 years is the max. And you can also choose if you want to include a terminal value or not. If you do, um, then the value will be based on a trailing 12-month EBITDA multiple. And on that exit, it will assume any debt you've raised or funding here would be paid back if there's a balance at the last month. Um, Also, there's some stuff with the Capex. We'll get to that though. Here you can define your revenue start month. So your launch year is one thing, but then the actual month you think you open operations and start having membership uh, is another. So you can define that here, and it could be the first month of your launch year or some other month, depend on your assumptions. Remember, all assumptions are unique to you, and these numbers in here are arbitrary, so you only adjust cells in light yellow with blue text to your specific situation. Then we have some tax rates down here. If you don't want to show taxes, you can always zero this out. If you do, it'll show in the income statement. So the first tab is the most important, your Capex. This is kind of your investment in all your different equipment items. I know these say vehicles, but it's just arbitrary. So you can enter your different equipment pieces for the gym. Here, there's up to 77 slots. You can enter the cost basis, useful life, and the month of expenditure, and that will all update on the income statement for the depreciation. Also note the top line is always for buildings, so if you do plan on purchasing the building, then you can enter that data here. If not, you can zero it out and zero out anything that doesn't apply to your situation. Next, we have startup costs. So these would be one-time fees that you plan on spending before you actually launch that hit in year 0, and they would be any non-depreciable items like that are also tax deductible. For example, web design, maybe some R&D, legal, consulting, maybe a reserve. Then we have cap table. So this can be set up as a joint venture by simply entering data for um, outside investors to invest money, and then they get some share of the common stock. I did 3 share types here, as well as a total share count, and the amount of money raised should match the equity requirement, which is what the model solves for based on all startup costs and any burn on the cash flow. This will populate. The last row here fills for overflow. So whatever you put in the first 19 slots of this, as well as the first 20 slots of inside investors, operators, the difference between that and the initial equity will flow here. You can zero this out if you don't have outside investors and just have, owner operator. That's fine. Just enter the investments accordingly and the percentage of ownership shares of each type. You'll see this solves down to fully diluted ownership value, and there's also a distribution schedule with internal rate of return for each row entity and in aggregate. Revenue is next. This is the major upgrade to this template. So it used to be more of a member model where you had growth of members and churn of members over time. I was really thinking about it, and I was researching a lot of stuff on how you find the optimal membership count for a gym. And basically, I found this rule of thumb where if your site only has a gym, or if it has a gym and a studio, or if it has a gym, a studio, and another offering like a sports hall or pool, what you can do is define the amount of stations your gym has, and this has up to 40 slots for that, and the count of people that can use that station at one time. And then what this model does is say, okay, there's 52 total people that could be occupying anything at one time. You multiply that by 25 to get your optimal membership count. If you only have a gym, you multiply it by 30 if it's a gym and a studio, 35 if it's this. So this would be your optimal gym count based on this rule of thumb. I also listed the source for that here, so research that. But you can put in whatever number, you can manually input your, let's say it's 1820, so we want to say that's our goal. Well, you can enter your starting maximum capacity attained, let's say 10%. That'll be your starting member count, and then you can define your monthly improvement in capacity attained. So if it's 4%, that means in month 1 you're going to be up to 14% of this number. In month 2 you're going to be up to 18% and 22% and so on. And you can define these percentages over time. And then based on that, the monthly detail will populate, and I pull that data back so you can see how long it takes you to get to 100%. In this case, it'd be in year 2. Let's say this was a little bit lower. Then now it takes a couple more years. Let's say it takes it 3 years to get to max on those percentages. But this was a much more elegant and I'd say it has more context, because based on what you spend in Capex here, you're going to know how many stations you have, and then that's going to directly inform your decision on the amount of stations and count per station and all this number. So it'll all give itself some relative context, so your assumptions will make a lot more sense. And you can also define the monthly fee that members are paying right here, and that could change over time or be the same. And then the revenue is just the amount of members you have at each month times the fee per member. That was I really, really liked this logic. This made a lot of sense to me, and I thought it was much better than what it previously was. Next up, we've got running costs. So this is pretty generic. You just got a fixed cost schedule up to 46 slots here. You could define the description of the cost, the start month of that cost, and the monthly cost of that item in year 1 through 10. You've also got a debt schedule. If you're going to finance anything, the financing amount's on the global control, but you can define the terms of the loan here, as well as a start month. That all flows accordingly. Terminal value, this just shows a breakdown. If you do want to include terminal value, this shows you the value of the building, whatever's entered on the Capex schedule. Also the sale of the business and how much of that's going to be applied to fixed assets or Capex items versus just extraordinary income. And that's just a tax thing. If you're fully depreciated at the end of the model, then you would just enter 100% here. If not, you could enter something less, and then the remainder would then flow to the Capex to figure out gain or loss on sale, and that's just a tax thing, like I said. Then we've got income statement. So you've got revenue, cost of goods sold. There are no cost of goods sold here. Operating costs, EBITDA, your interest, depreciation. This is an important part for a gym right here, because that's tax deductible depreciation, but it's a non-cash item. Extraordinary loss of sale of business and assets, so that you'll see in the last, the exit month, whatever it is defined as. And then taxable income, income tax, and net income. We've got the same thing, but on an annual basis for the income statement, so you can get a nice snapshot there. You've also got balance sheet. So balance sheet has your assets, non-current assets, accumulated depreciation, total assets, liabilities, owner's equity, retained earnings, and then your check down here to make sure assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. And this will all update as you change any of the assumptions in the yellow tabs. You've also got balance sheet annual, same thing but on an annual basis. And then to figure out your cash flow sources, you've got operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. And all these are interlinked, cash flow monthly and annual, as well as interlinked to the balance sheet income statement. And all of those are linked to the monthly and annual detail, which are driven off all your assumptions. So this is a really robust, nice 3-statement model. It's also got, we got visualizations here for some key metrics. Also high-level executive summaries where you can get a digestible view of the different financial forecast, key numbers, internal rate of return, equity multiple, total ROI, cash position of the project, distribution. This is your net or discounted cash flow analysis based on some discount rate and the distributions available. And this will match up with your cap table on the aggregate levels for investor outside versus owner contributions. You've also got a visual that shows that. And again, it doesn't have to be a joint venture. You can just set it up for an owner. If you don't have any outside investors, you'll just zero that out. The monthly details, so this is where you can see like the percentage of that capacity changing over time by month over the 10-year period, the amount of members that equates to based on your maximum, and then the revenue per month that equals. Then we've got operating costs here, EBITDA, other cash flow items, debt service, more other cash flow items, Capex, taxes, sale from fixed assets, sale business, startup costs, financing, and then final cash flow, which this is used to figure out your minimum equity required. Annual detail does the same thing as the monthly, but just on an annual basis. And then validations just for your drop downs on your dates. Okay, that's all I got for you. This is the gym membership model. I'll link in the description box below. It'll also be listed on Eloquent eFinish Models. And I'll see you guys on the next one.